Good evening. It's Monday, September 18th, 2023. Welcome to episode 34 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And it's been a few weeks since we've been on. So I thought that we would come on tonight and get caught up and let you know what's been going on with us and what's happening on the homestead and maybe talk about a few issues. So yeah, it's good to be back on. Hey, what's going on, Homestead Medical? Thanks for joining us tonight. Hope all is well. Yeah, it's been pretty nice to actually be back doing what feels a little bit more like a normal routine for us because I'll say I have been training for this race, and it's been disruptive as far as what I've been able to get done around the place here. And so it just has really felt good since I've completed my race and I've been back into the normal flow of things. It just feels like I have a lot more time to get things done around the property here. And it's been really nice. Mm-hmm. It's been super good. So I've been really productive and Rebecca's been productive. And yeah, we just wanted to come on tonight and kind of get caught up with you guys. And one of the things I wanted to mention, because I think it's been in like the last week and a half, we hit 40,000 subscribers. And yeah, that's a big achievement, really. And it's not as much us as it is just the whole everybody that's subscribed to the channel. And I wanted to say thank you, because it's quite humbling to think that there's that many people that would click subscribe on our channel and, join us for whatever it is that they join us, whether it be the live stream that we do, whether it be the long form content or the shorts. I really appreciate it. And again, it's quite humbling. I actually, at the start of the year, I had written down some goals for the channel, because I think it's good to have goals to set your sights on certain things. And one of the goals that I had written down, and at the time I thought it was a very audacious, quite a far-reaching goal, but I had written down that I wanted to achieve 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And I don't know if that's something that we will actually do by the end of the year, but I think it's good to reach for those goals that you want. We may not achieve that, but I feel very fortunate again and thankful for those that have joined us in the journey that we've, I guess, embarked upon in creating content here on YouTube. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, let me say hi to a few folks tonight. We got Homestead Medical in the house. So good evening, Chuck. How are you, man? I'm doing good. Life is good. Crypto Muser Farms, welcome. And Carol Jones, yeah, thank you. I appreciate the congrats. KTZ, right on. And Leather Homestead, how you doing? Good to see you tonight.
Hi to all.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys joining us. And wanted to talk about a few things tonight, I guess, in hopes to stimulate some thought, to provoke some thought, to provoke maybe some conversation from you guys, because I would love to have a conversation with any of you who would like to join us. So I will be putting a link to this stream. So if it's something that you feel like, hey, I want to join you guys and participate in the conversation, feel free. Because I don't want this to just be a monologue or an echo chamber. I want it to be something that, we're able to have an exchange. So I will be putting up a link here shortly. But one of the things that kind of struck me is I caught wind of something newsworthy in California that's coming across the governor's desk. It's been signed by the legislature, and it has the endorsement of the labor unions. And I was just thinking to myself how it's these sort of things that come out of California, they really tend to affect more than just Californians. You know, they have far-reaching implications. And if you have not yet seen the impacts or felt the change that's come your way because of some of the things that have taken place in this state, you soon will. And, you know, neighboring states near you will. But what this bill consisted of was a pretty lengthy, like 2-year negotiation that I think that this is probably something that's going to pass. And when it goes into effect, it'll be next April. But they've proposed, and this is for fast food restaurants. So any fast food restaurant, whether it be KFC or Chick-fil-A or Taco Bell, or you name it, any fast food restaurant that has more than 60 stores nationwide will be eligible for their employees entry level to make $20 an hour. So currently the minimum wage in California for unskilled labor, minimum wage is $15 an hour. And that's set to go up to $16 an hour in January, just for everybody. It's already going to happen. But this is something specific to the fast food industry. And I was just thinking about it. And what was striking was that fast food is something that a lot of, this is the idiocy of politicians and the things that they do, because here they're trying to help the poor worker who's entry level that has decided to make a career out of flipping burgers, you know, or whatever they're doing at a fast food restaurant. And they're complaining because, oh, I've got to go out and get another job. You know, I can't make ends meet because I have to go get another job because I'm working at McDonald's and it's not a living wage. So what they're trying to do is make this a living wage for the employees. But what they're also doing is they're taking and making it more expensive for those people who are trying to make ends meet, and they're feeding their families with this shit crap food, this cheap food that they're able to go and purchase and put food on their table. A lot of families are doing that. They're going out to Domino's Pizza, right? They're bringing home a bucket of cluck from KFC.
Or Little Caesars.
Yeah, all of these places that, you know, people are going and putting food on their table because they're having a hard time making ends meet as well. That cost is going to be now directly transferred to everybody who's going to want to go and get a cheap meal. We could go to, like, when we go to a like In-N-Out Burger, that's kind of our like vice, right? They're fast food restaurant, but they're pretty good fast food as far as I'm concerned. And we can go and get what, a puppy patty, 2 puppy patties for Ellie Mae. And then we can get our combo meals, right? And it's like $22. It used to be like a year ago, it was like under $20.
Yeah, it was anywhere between 16 to 18. If we were to get the puppy patties, it would be 18 something, I think.
Right. And so it's actually went up since then, but still that's $22. But if we go anywhere to buy like a sandwich and a drink, a deli sandwich and a drink, it's like $35 here. So food is just incredibly expensive. And it's just interesting how this is going to have a ripple effect to people that live in this state. But more than that, it's actually, from what I was thinking about, going to have a ripple effect for everybody, because what it's going to do is it's going to make it harder for all businesses to find unskilled labor. They're going to have to raise their minimum standards just to get people to show up. Why wouldn't I just go to Taco Bell and make $20 an hour? Why am I working for you, dude? And so that's going to raise everything as far as the minimum base standard here in this state. And I don't know if these people think of those sorts of things, or maybe they do, and they're just beholden to the labor unions and all the deals that are made behind the scenes. But that's going to have a trickle-down effect to neighboring states, because California is the largest economy around. It's like the 5th largest in the world. And so a lot of product and commerce comes out of here. And that's just going to raise the cost of that for everybody. So it's just a really interesting thing that happens. And I wanted to kind of just like bring that to your attention because it's, you may not think things like that affect you, but I can assure you that they absolutely do. Let's see.
I got crypto into biochar.
Where's that?
Second one down.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I'm thankful, man. I'm glad that you're getting something out of that. You got a little. You were enjoying the biochar content, and you started doing it. So that's cool, man. Anything that we can do to improve soil quality, and anything that we can do to, sequester carbon, I think is a really valuable thing that we can all do. It doesn't cost anything, and it just takes time, and it takes a little bit of effort. But yeah, that's awesome.
I agree that the fast food employees will be replaced with robots.
Yeah. We've been talking about AI, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to be. It's kind of damn creepy, man. I'm really like, I don't know if you guys saw it. I happen to see it on TikTok, but it was just a short clip of these like robots, and they look so real. They got like their head. You can see their head is just like a metal skeleton or whatever, and it's got this like latex face on it, but it looks like real skin, and they blink like real people, and they look around, and they don't look like they're like a robot. They look like a human being just sitting there just looking around. And I think they went to like a football game or something like that, and it was just bizarre, man.
Well, it's creepy because the latex face actually even has like blemishes and stuff in it. It's just really weird.
Yeah, they look like real humans. And then you look at the side of their head, and it's like the back of their head, and it's just like this like thing on their face, and it's like this metallic skull back there, but it's like super creepy AI. Yeah, I agree with you, Bruce. You can definitely make better food at home. And there's better choices for us all if we can do that, if we can grow our food, but there's, the reality is that so many people, for whatever reason, they've not made that a priority, and that's how they decide to, feed their families, or, get food on the run or whatever. And it's going to raise that. That's the last place you can go and get a grip of food. I mean, you could go to Taco Bell with $20, man, and just like, I haven't been there in years, but I mean, you could get a lot of food at Taco Bell or any of these, type of places.
We think, since we haven't been there, we don't know what their prices are like.
No, yeah, that's true. But you used to be able to do that. Yeah, AI is about to replace so many low-skill jobs. It's a huge issue that people know is coming, but not ready for. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things. I think that there's going to be, with this technological age, there's just going to be so many unintended consequences. Even the stuff that they've warned us about, and the things that they've been talking about. I just think that you're right. I think that there's people that are not seriously considering what their next move's going to be, because there's going to be a lot of jobs that will be replaced. They're already kind of doing that in some places. They're test running the whole like automated burger like places and stuff. So, once they get that perfected, man, there's not going to be any like people working there. It'll just be done, automatic, and it'll just come out of a thing or whatever. And it's just going to make it a lot more efficient and more cost effective for the management. But there's going to be a whole lot of people that are going to be like, now what do we do? And I think that's one of the reasons why they're proposing, and they have been for many years, this universal basic income. You have people looking to give people something for nothing, just for the fact of existing. And, it's one way to garner votes, but
at least that's my take on it, is that we're seeing a lot of things that they're introducing for the vote factor, because it's close to an election.
Oh yeah. That's their game. Hey, Skanes girl, how are you?
Hi,
Good
Skanes
evening.
girl.
Good evening. Glad to see you. Let me post, let me see here. Let me throw that in there. And that's the link to, if anybody wants to join us for the conversation, feel free. Like I say, it doesn't need to be just me yammering on up here and Rebecca, chiming in. We can all have a conversation if you would like. So use that link and we'll put you in. Another area, that you guys have been affected, unbeknownst maybe to you. Well, you probably everybody knows this, but you might not think how much it's affected you. But years ago, I think it was like in 1996-ish. So we're not talking that long ago. That's quite a number of years, but that's still within pretty recent memory of all of us for the most part. You couldn't get married if you were gay. That was not a thing. Gay marriage was not a thing. It was not legal. It was not recognized anywhere in the country. However, there was a place called San Francisco, good old California. And at the time, there was a mayor. You guys may have heard of him. If not, you will. At the time, the mayor was a guy named Gavin Newsom. And he said, hey, come to California, come to San Francisco. We'll marry you. And so they had a lot of people that were homosexual. They decided, we're going to go to San Francisco and get married. And they had this symbolic ceremony and were given a marriage certificate and all of those sort of things. And, it wasn't recognized in any other place than just, symbolically in San Francisco, but that was a big deal for a lot of people. However, that has since changed. And now we have 37 out of the 50 states in our union where it's legal. And so again, these things may not affect you where you live right now. You may live in a state where, we don't have, we're not gay marriage, whatever. It's like, no, we're conservative here. We don't, no, this is the Bible Belt. This is, wherever you live. I'm telling you, these things are progressing forward, and there's really not a lot that any of us can necessarily do to stop it long term. I think that there's some things that if that's something you're, interested in trying to pursue in a political direction, you might have some sway short term, but long term, none of this is you're not going to stop any of this. Because here's the thing, even if your state doesn't recognize gay marriage, it has to recognize it federally, because the Supreme Court passed a decision in 2015 where all 50 states have to recognize that union if that union took place in a state where they could get legally married. And that was a Supreme Court decision in 2015. So it's just one of those things that, like, not too long ago, you had politicians like Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, all the libs, right, that are super pro everything. They no gay marriage, no, we don't, no, it's a man and a woman. They were saying that, of course, they want your vote. So that's what they were saying not too very long ago. And now look at how the winds of change have moved things in this country. It won't be long where you won't have a conversation like this. I won't be able to have a conversation like this and express my opinion without somebody saying I'm going to dox that person because I disagree with what they are talking about. And so I don't know. What's your thoughts on the gay marriage?
Well, we were talking about it earlier. I mean, everybody has a right to do whatever they want in their own home. But as far as calling it a marriage, I believe it. And I believe Eric believes that that's an institution between a man and a woman. And if they want to call it a civil union or whatnot, that's great. But 2 men and 2 women are not a marriage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really the only problem I have with it. I could care less whether or not the state wants to give them all the legal rights that are afforded to a man and a woman in this type of legal definition. I think that they should have those rights, but I do think that there needs to be some form of distinction, because it's not the same thing. And there's not anybody who's going to come on here and convince me otherwise. This, despite what you may think or somebody may think, it's just not the same thing. And, I think that there really doesn't necessarily need to be the state that sanctions marriage, because if two people are committed to one another, they shouldn't need the state's blessing or a piece of paper from the state in order to enter into that covenant. That's not what I think a marriage is. But I do see the value of the state promoting marriage between a man and a woman. And the reason why is because it incentivizes that couple to stay together. It incentivizes the male to not be spreading his seed, creating children with all these different women, and moving on. So it provides, I think, a stability factor in society. It incentivizes you to stay together, and they provide you certain benefits that you get as a married couple as a result of that, and disincentivizes you from going and just, certain number of people are going to stay with that person regardless of whether or not the state does those things. But there's a whole lot of other people that would feel a lot more liberated to go and make baby after baby after baby. And then what you're going to have is a lot of unwed, unattached, fatherless children. And so I think that it's a good thing as far as the state promoting the idea, but that's not necessary to promote that idea if they're same sex, because there will be no children between those two people, despite what,
Not biologically.
Well, true. Yeah. But how are those children going to get here? They're going to have to get here from the two sexes getting together. And, so that's my take on it. I could care less whether or not they have rights. I think they should actually have rights to go and visit their loved one in the hospital and do all of those sorts of things. But, again, there's no children from them necessarily. And you can make the argument, one could make the argument that there's a lot of married couples that get together and choose not to have kids. Well, that's a choice that they've made. They had the opportunity. Gay people don't have the opportunity to do that unless they go and they adopt some children. And that's a possibility. But again, I think there's a distinction, and there needs to be a distinction drawn in society between what is a marriage and what is a civil union. But that's just my take.
She'd like to know about some fruit trees.
Let's see here. KTZ says, I just got 5 acres and there's 2 old apple trees. One has some fruit and the other has leaves on the trunk and the rest is dead. You have any advice on trying to salvage and bring them back? Yeah, I would take the dead wood off, certainly dead wood off, and then make sure that they're getting plenty of water. A lot of times these older trees will get disease. They'll become susceptible to disease because they're weak, because they haven't been necessarily getting enough maybe water, enough nutrient, enough those sorts of things. They could be very old, and that's just a result of old age. Trees don't live forever. They have a life cycle as well. So yeah, I would definitely try to bring them back, bring in a bunch of mulch and put a really deep, thick mulch ring around them. You might try to add a little bit of, some compost or something like that that's organic and slow release, not any inorganic fertilizers. Don't get carried away with that sort of thing. You'll definitely impact the tree negatively. But yeah, trim off the old stuff and, take and prune them back good when they hit the period of dormancy this year, and then see where they go. They'll probably respond favorably to that. But again, I can't I can't know that, but that's what I would do. Hey, how you doing, Lucy? Good evening. Good to see you. Knucklehead Homestead. Yeah, right on. Welcome.
I like the name.
Yeah, that's a cool name, man. I might like incorporate that somehow. I like the knucklehead. That's all about right here. Yeah. Yeah, so that's one aspect of how California has crept into your lives. Another one is, and these are all just kind of like social issues that have been sort of out there, sort of hot button issues and controversial for one reason or another. And, as somebody that's libertarian minded, again, I don't really care what people do, and I really like to see the state out of people's business as much as possible. I don't think that they should have a say in certain things, if it's between two consenting adults or if it's a consenting adult, how and what they put in their body. If they want to put things in there that are harmful, that's certainly up to them. I don't think that anybody should tell them otherwise. But another issue that has impacted a state near you is marijuana. And I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. I don't think that it necessarily should be illegal per se. It's something that people should be able to grow and use for their own use and not have that be illegal. That's my take on it. Whether or not they're able to go and sell that publicly to people, maybe the state has some prohibition against that or what have you, but I don't think that certain things should be illegal. However, again, California leads the way. It was the first state where medicinal marijuana was made legal. And I think that, maybe that was like in around that same time. There was a fight at that point in time. There was definitely a fight. However, as I understand it, there's 37 states, probably the same 37 states that are on board with the gay marriage issue, where medicinal marijuana is now legal in those states. So that's a plurality of all, the states that we have in this, United States. So, yeah, I mean, it's 25 of them, in fact, half of them, you can go and you just walk. You don't need a medical thing or anything. It's recreational. I think California is one of those now, because they just put 3 dispensaries in our town.
Yeah.
I heard him talking about it. I was listening
really fast.
Yeah, I heard him talking on one of the city council meetings a couple of years ago, and I was listening in, and that was like kind of a talk about, and there was people that like, oh, I don't want that and this and that. And they're like, well, you don't get a choice, man. This is a law. This, that's great. That's great. You don't want this in your community. That's great. You think it's going to be a bad thing, but this is coming. Don't it's where we put it. That's what we're having the discussion on. We're not talking about whether or not you get to decide whether that's already been decided. So now we've got 3 dispensaries in our town of roughly 15,000 people, where you can just go in and go, hey man, I want some of that bud right there. I guess I don't really have a problem with it, quite honestly. The thing that I have a problem with is that the state wants to regulate all that shit because they need their cut, right? Same with booze. I mean, all of that stuff's drugs, right? Alcohol's drugs. Pharmaceuticals are drugs. Those are all poisons to some extent. Now, there's pharmaceuticals that are good, don't get me wrong, but a lot of that stuff, they've been handing out like candy, and people have been getting hooked on it and killing themselves. It's a prescription. authorized by the state. So marijuana is they have been for years, oh, it's a gateway drug. We can't allow that in, until they realize, hey, there's money in this. We want to get our money. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on the weed coming into town?
I find it unfortunate because I feel that the younger kids are actually going to get their hands on it. And I've heard younger kids use that, it's no big deal. It's just a gateway drug. And I'm saying, okay, it's a gateway drug. And once it's not quite as effective, then what do you do from there? You're going to move to something stronger. So anyway, I guess those are my issues, is more with the younger kids.
Yeah, but they're going to, kids that are going to do that sort of thing are going to get it anyhow. That's the reality of it, and a lot of kids do it and try it. And they're like, man, maybe that's not for me. Or maybe they turn out to be stoners, and it's something that they do their entire life. Some people do that, I mean, again, everybody has choices in life. I just think that like, we can't put training wheels on everything in society. Like, people have decisions to make. You can do as much as you want to try to raise kids, but kids are going to do what kids are going to do. And then they're going to have to live with the consequences. That's the job of a parent, is to say, this is good, this is bad, this is but again, I think something that's adults want to do and grow in their backyard or whatever, and get stoned, if that's their thing, man, like, more power to you. And I don't think that the argument should be that, like, oh, we got to keep it away from kids, because they're going to find booze, they're going to find alcohol, they're going to find all kinds of stuff that is much worse than that. So I don't know. That's just the way I feel about it.
I think it's one of those things that if it hasn't happened to you, you have a certain perspective of it. But if you had a child who then became addicted and ended up dying over it, your perspective might be a little bit different.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I can only go based on what my opinion is based on my life experience. And you're right. If, that had been the case, I may have a different take on it. I could have a different take on it next year, but this year, that's the way that I feel about it. I don't believe that I've always felt the way that I feel now, but as I get a little longer in the tooth, I just realize things a little differently, I suppose. But Crypto Muser Farm says, I've grown Mary Jane for over 15 years. It definitely should be legal, my opinion, but cooperations are trying to take it over. Yeah, there's so much money out there for, the politicians and all the people that are, looking to profit in some way. I don't know.
While we're talking about marijuana, I have to tell you just a really quick story. My dad was a butcher, and he worked with a couple young guys, and they convinced my dad he should grow some marijuana for him. And so he came home with these two plants that he that he was growing, and he was very proud of them because they were doing really well. And at the time, I had a Siamese cat who he got up one morning to go water his plants, and the cat was very, very loving because she had eaten all the marijuana.
Hating all the bud.
Yeah.
That's funny. I can't imagine your dad growing weed. That's too much.
It was hysterical.
That's too much. Yeah. Yeah, alcohol is a real gateway drug. I think, it depends. It just depends on the person themselves. Some people can handle it and other people can't. I have a very addictive personality, quite honestly. I've kept things under control. I used to chew tobacco for like 30 years because I have an addictive personality. I like drinking beer. I wouldn't consider myself an alcoholic, but I've had times where I become pretty habitual at it. but I can put it down. I mean, I went like 2 months without drinking anything. I haven't had like much in the way of any beer. I've had a couple of beers since I got back from that race, but it isn't like I need to drink every night, you know? And the reason why I've decided not to say, oh, I can't do beer is because I want to regulate that, because I do like to be able to have a pop socially. I do like to be able to have a cocktail now and then, you know? And so it's one of those things that people have to be able to manage their own vices, whether those vices be food or something else. And yeah, alcohol can be pretty damaging to a lot of people. I think that one dude, what was that band? The guy just died of cirrhosis of the liver because he's alcoholic. What was that name of that band? It was a pretty popular band in the 90s or whatever. But yeah, 52 years old, man, just died from cirrhosis of the liver. So yeah, alcoholism is a real thing. Let me see what we got here.
I would agree. Alcohol is a gateway drug.
Hey, what's up, Jason? Good evening. Good to see you tonight. Another place that California is definitely leading the way. And I will tell you this, that when we go elsewhere, when we go to other states, it's quite refreshing to not see just a grip of hobos everywhere. You know, crazy, like people whacked out of their mind, like screaming at like nothing. It's nice not seeing that. And in fact, last time I was in Tennessee, I only saw one homeless encampment driving back to the airport. It was like in Nashville, right before I got to the kind of the airport and stuff. There was like one tent kind of underneath the overpass. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. I went all that time and not seen one hobo. And it's not like that here. You know, I saw a statistic a few years ago. I don't know. It may have changed. The statistic may have changed, probably has. I don't know to what extent. But 1/3 of all of the homeless people in the country lives in this state. That's 33% of all of the people on the street live in California. And so you have to imagine that when you go to one of the cities, because they don't as much inhabit the smaller towns and things like that, you see a lot of it in the cities, and it's bad there, you know, and there's places it's bad. We've seen a dramatic increase in our town, and we've got a town of 15,000. And this has happened over the course of the last, I want to say now about 10 years, right? We started noticing a lot more homeless people and people under the bridge and, you know, whatever. We always had our people that were kind of like mentally addled that would walk around town, but they were good natured and everybody knew who they were.
They didn't beg from you or anything. You knew that they were just kind of mentally off. They just shuffled through town.
And everybody liked them and we're, you know, hey, how you doing? You know, or whatever and stuff. And now you just see people kind of like, you don't know who they are. They, you know, showing up and you know, crime has gone up and stuff like that in our town. But you go to like Sacramento or, you know, San Francisco, I haven't been there in a while, but, you know, everything that I hear of that place is just getting worse. And so, you know, consider yourself lucky you haven't seen that. And I'm not exactly sure. Consider yourself lucky if you haven't seen that in your town or whatnot. But if things don't get better economically, if they don't decide to change the direction of this country from the standpoint of how they deal with these issues, you know, it will be in a town or a state near you, and you're going to start to see it a lot more. I know that like you go to like big towns in Texas and stuff, you know, Dallas and Austin and all those sorts of places, they've got, you know, I'm sure you go to Knoxville or whatever, and there's going to be places where you're going to see that sort of thing. May not be in your town, but it's one thing I liked about Camden, Tennessee, kind of. You know, when I went there, I was just thinking, man, these people, you can tell they ain't got a lot of money, but you know what? Their shit don't look tore back. They got nice places, man. They keep them up. It's kind of nice. And it's just kind of quiet. And, and it just was cool, man. You know,
Telling me I wasn't there, so I don't know.
I know. I'm just kind of reminiscing now, I guess. But yeah, man. Let me drop this link again. See if anybody wants to join. But yeah, would love to have a conversation on any of these issues you wanna chime in on. Let's see here, Sarah Martin. 3 dispensaries opening in a small town while legal can hardly be considered helpful to that town. What mayor or chamber of commerce cannot see that? Inevitable. What? No, it's inevitable because it's a law in California. So you know, what are you going to do? Even if you're the city councilman, even if you're the sheriff and you don't want this, the sheriff was at those meetings. The fire chief was at those meetings. They expressed their concern. Tough shit. This is the law. This is coming down from Sacramento. So it's where do you want your dispensaries, not if you want them at all. That's kind of how it went down. And yes, I agree with you. I don't necessarily think that it's really all that helpful per se. But I mean, really, I don't know what harm it does either.
So the one they put in on Main Street is right next to a bar.
Cool. I mean, whatever, man. Like you can get alcohol and then you go next door, you know, whatever. I don't find it to be like this big change in how, you know, it's going to bring drugs into there's already drugs here. There's already those things. But yeah, the homeless issue is a very thorny issue, and it's not one I purport to have any kind of answer to. You can't just lock people up. You can't just, you know, round people up and start medicating them. You know, as much as it's easy to say, you know, hey, just get those people out of here. Well, a lot of them have different circumstances, and it's really hard to navigate that. The problem is a lot of them actually are very capable and have chosen that lifestyle. And those are the ones I don't necessarily have empathy for. It's the ones that actually want help, that would benefit from some help. But how do you get to those people, and who are they, and who's going to make that move, you know? Let's see here. Yeah, it's just not cool, man. Homelessness. It's just not cool. It's not okay. We don't like going into town at night because it's just like that's when the street creatures come out.
It's like zombie land.
Yeah, man. Sketchy people. They're out in the daytime, you know, but you see them a lot of times laid up, you know, sleeping in the wherever. And then at night they kind of wake up and then they go around and they do whatever on their drugs or going out stealing stuff. Crime report has went up quite considerably. But, you know, you find like needles occasionally in places. I try not to go places where needles are found, but I was out actually at the Bend, you know, where I go running, and it's a BLM piece of, you know, property. And there's like a hypodermic needle there. It's like, what's that doing out here? So drugs are a real problem. Oh, you got to be kidding me, man. I've been trying to get this. Look at that. Skanes girl's in the house. How you doing? How are you?
Hey, I'm not scared. I'm going to turn you down on the big screen, though. Hold on.
Oh, right on. Right on. Well, welcome. We got Skanes girl here. Yeah. So what do you think of all this we're talking about? Do you have anything to...
Howdy, y'all.
Hey. What's your thoughts?
You know, I think, you know, when you talk about young people, okay, I also have an addictive personality, and, you know, partied like a rock star for a long time, and you kind of outgrow all those things. But I find that when things are forbidden, it's more appealing to kids, you know, to rebel against their parents and the norm. And I think you'll find that maybe they might try it. I'm not really sure they're just going to go hog wild crazy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's a lot of truth in what you just said. In fact, my understanding and kind of how they were dealing with things over in Amsterdam, because
Sorry.
Amsterdam, basically has that stuff. Everything's legal over there. And yes, they have their shooters park. They have the place where people are just going to be drugged out and they're going to get high and they're going to hang out. But most people that see that go, yeah, that ain't for me, man. Even though I can just go down there and get heroin or I can get whatever it is that I want, it's legal there. I can just buy it. Most people decide otherwise because they see the result of that. And I agree with you. Like, I think that matters to people that are willing to pay attention, and even kids, right?
So I agree with Katie's.
Well, just like you were saying, if you're just going to have those that have that addictive personality anyway, and it doesn't matter whether it's legal or not, they're going to be doing what they want to do.
Right. Yeah.
So you can't, and for the parents that have struggled with their kids that have that addiction problem, I really feel for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nothing I can really speak to. I didn't have children that I didn't have to live through that, and so I do definitely want to empathize for those that have, because it's got to be just heart-wrenching to see your child go through that and to do those sorts of things. But looks like we lost her. Yeah. Well, it's cool having you on, Skanes. Appreciate it. Thanks for jumping in there. KTZ says all things in moderation. Yeah, that's a hard one. That is definitely a hard thing to because it's like when you like something, you kind of like you like it, and so you have to be able to recognize, hey, I need to chill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he doesn't have an addictive personality.
I don't have. I can have something and leave it alone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, there's Skane's girl.
She's back.
She's back. She's kind of glitching up, but yeah, we'll bring you in. Yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. So how's things out in Louisiana?
Let me see.
Can you hear me or are you glitching?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just look. I'm so far out in the boonies. They got to pump in the sunshine.
Oh man.
So it's I'm off a hot spot out here. There's no cable or anything like that.
Right. So tell me, how are things out in Louisiana where you're at? I mean, you probably aren't seeing any of these types of social issues that I'm discussing tonight, right? It's probably pretty.
What with
mellow.
The homelessness?
Yeah, homelessness.
I'm not sure
and
about Monroe or Shreveport would be your. Now in New Orleans, yeah, terrible problem. I mean,
right.
Now I lived on the North Shore for over 25 years, and you were constantly seeing people. They would, find a way there, and then they just wouldn't leave, and they would be the underpasses would just be packed with tents and homemade stuff and people everywhere, trash. It was, and they would come in and clean it out, and then they would come back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the scenario here. They kind of, move them from place to place. Yeah, they move them from place to place, and
excuse me.
They're not going away. They're actually just moving them to another part of the city. And yeah, it's an industry. It quite honestly isn't. Go ahead.
I was just checking my signal.
Okay. I think we're kind of glitching out with you though. Yeah, it's definitely an industry, the homeless issue. And I don't think that it's actually something that they're looking to solve, because there's a lot of money to be made in, their arrangements that they have in the homeless, industrial complex, if you want to call it that. We've got a new facility being built here in our city, in our town, that is going to be the county-wide facility for homelessness. So it's going to be like an outreach type of a thing where they've got, come here. It's like your work thing. You can help you with work. We'll help you with housing. We'll help you with all these things. And I think those things I think it's great that does exist. But the problem that I see is that we've seen over and over that these things just don't really solve the issue, because they've thrown countless dollars, for many, many years at places like San Francisco and other large metropolitan areas that have homeless issues. They've pumped the money to them, and it's not helping. All it's doing is it's drawing more homeless people. And so I think when you're trying to sell it to people, it sounds very good on paper, like, oh, we're going to help these homeless people and we're building this outreach center. But really all you're doing is you're attracting more homeless people to your area. And so a lot of people were like opposed to it, but we don't really get a say. We can say what we're going to say, but they're like, oh, well, this is where it's going. Despite how many people show up to the meetings and the public hearings and all of these sorts of things, it's already kind of like, hey, this is a public-private partnership. We've got all this X number of money. It needs to go somewhere. Well, here's where it's going. And that's kind of how it went down here in this town. And again, all you're doing is you're inviting more people from around the county to now conglomerate in the city seat, or the county seat, I should say, which is the large town we live in.
A lot of these people have mental issues.
Yes, I agree.
That they're not addressing.
Yeah.
They're mentally ill. And I know my brother was telling me, and the one in San Jose, that they had one who was definitely a mental patient. She would just go through people's yard, use their hoses, urinate in their front yards, just, and they couldn't hardly get anything done about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty
They
sad.
don't want to deal with that situation.
It's pretty sad. I just kind of received a picture from the neighborhood pastors. He sent a picture to some folks, and it was basically somebody who had taken a crap on the door at the church. And it's just like, that ain't the first time I've seen this in this town. Down at the city pool, I saw, they just back up to the wall and just crap on the wall, just boom. It's running down the door of the church. And it's like, I don't know, man, like this is a smaller town, but they're dealing with this in these large towns. And it's not even like, they're not even hiding it. It's really bad. And I feel bad for the direction, I guess, that we're headed. And I don't have an answer for it. No, there is really, I don't think a great solution at this point. There isn't the will politically or otherwise to deal with it. And it's something that, again, is going to wind up trickling down to, every town USA.
Well, I think that there's probably some solution if it were to be followed. However, for example, in institutions, they take over and you end up with more staff than there are actually clients, because of the politics and money and everything else. So the same thing happens with mental health facilities that actually kind of don't really exist anymore, but they used to house them and keep them and get them on medication and stabilize them, and then slowly release them out in the community. But they don't do that anymore.
Right. Well, hey, Gainesville popped out on us again, but thanks for joining us. That was cool, man. I've been wanting to get you on and chat for a little bit, so thanks for joining us tonight. And anybody else, the offer stands. Crypto Muser Farms asks if I'm ex-military. No, I'm ex-fire service. I was a firefighter for same department for 30 years, and I've been retired since 2015. Yeah, no, I get it, Skanes girl. I get it. I appreciate you jumping on, though. I definitely do. But hey, let's maybe switch gears and not talk so much about like all the bad stuff that's happening. What's going on? That's good. What's happening around here that's positive and good? Do we have anything to
Well, you
report?
completed your race.
Yeah, I got that done. Yeah, I'm happy about that. I don't necessarily want to talk a lot about on it tonight, but yeah, I'm anytime you can set a goal for yourself, particularly one that's hard, particularly one that's maybe physical, there's a lot to be derived from that as far as from a satisfaction standpoint. So I'm glad for the success that I had in that. And again, it's just been good to be back. Feels like fall's in the air. The temperatures are definitely nice at night and nice in the morning. And I've been very productive around here. I think tomorrow I'm going to go and get myself some stuff to put in the ground because I sifted some compost today and got a couple of my beds prepped and ready for fall planting because it's coming into that time of year. We typically plant our fall crop, our brassicas and potatoes and stuff like that tends to go in around Labor Day. So we're right about that time. And I'm working on my bed for my garlic and onions, and garlic's going to go in October 1st. So we still have a little bit of time on that, but I'm still prepping that bed. And so it just feels good to get out and work on the property. I've been spending about 4 hours, probably 4 to 5 hours a day out there, just doing my thing, getting stuff trimmed and all the stuff that you walk by when you're on your property. You're walking by it and you're going, man, I got to deal with that. And you just keep walking by day after day. And you just keep logging it in your memory. Yeah, I got to get to that sometime. Now's that time. And so I've been stacking wood, moving wood inside and, mowing and weed eating and getting done a lot of the stuff that I've been putting off. So it's just nice to have that extra time to do that since I'm not training nearly as much. Yeah.
I'd like to know what the purple sweet potato sourdough tastes like.
I'm making purple sweet potato sourdough. Purple sweet potato.
I've never heard of it.
Sourdough, purple sweet potato. Oh, wow. Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be super interesting. I'd like to know more about that. I use clean and repair bunker gear used to clean and repair bunker gear a few years ago. Really? For firefighting bunker gear? Huh. Yeah, that's cool. So what have you been working on?
I'm still trying to perfect making soap. The soap itself is turning out well. I'm just struggling with the fragrance and kind of working with the colors. I can do a solid color, but I'm not that patient. I want to put 2 or 3 colors in. And so I'm working with that. I just did, I did one yesterday and cut it today. And so far it cut pretty good, smells pretty good. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. It still needs to process for its 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, you'll have to let me smell that. I haven't seen it since you cut it or whatever, but you'll have to let me check it out. Yeah, but your soap's coming along good. We use it all the time. It's just one of those things you got to, like she was saying, figure out the scents, and then just certain aspects of the making process changes things kind of dramatically when you're removing it out of the mold and cutting it and things like that. So those are all things she's learning as she's going. But you've made a lot of
soap.
Yeah, made a lot of soap. So we got soap for a while. We're good on that. Yeah. What else? Oh, you putting up a bunch of herbs. I think you're drying some herbs right now, right?
I am. I'm drying some basil right now.
Yeah. We've had just a banner year of basil. We just more basil. I planted I've got this old it's called a Georgia buggy. And my dad got this thing, was given to him from his brother, who got it from, they used it when they made the Golden Gate Bridge. And a Georgia buggy, what it is it's a buggy that men, when they used to be men and didn't have a problem working on a job all day long and would break their backs for a little bit of pay, had this buggy that was filled with concrete. And that's what they were wheeling around when they were making the Golden Gate Bridge. So he got this Georgia buggy, and my dad had it for years. That it was out in front as you drove up to the ranch, and he used to plant flowers in it and everything. And he wound up giving it to my son, and my son had it at his place. And then my son's house burned down in the car fire in I don't know, it's been it's been 5 years. No.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been 5 years. But anyhow, he painted it up again and put wheels on it and stuff. But anyhow, now it resides at my house. And then I've plumbed it with drip irrigation so that it comes on and waters automatically. And that's basically where I've planted a lot of herbs. I plant certain herbs in there. And this year I put a lot of mostly basil.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? The shape of it is if you were to flip it upside down, it would look like one of those teardrop trailers.
Oh yeah. It does. Totally. But yeah, that thing's just been cranking the basil out this year. So we've been not freeze drying it, but you've been dehydrating it. And then we've been eating pesto a lot. We eat a lot of pesto and stuff. So basil is something that goes over big here, but we've got a whole lot of other herbs that need to be dried out there. We've got sage coming on. I mean, a lot of sage and stuff. So she likes to dry a bunch of that stuff before, we get into winter and all. But yeah, we've still got tomatoes, not a lot, but we've still got some tomatoes out there, and the tomato plants are rebounding and coming back to life to some extent. So the weather is definitely in our favor as far as just things wanting to grow. But I think I'm going to run up tomorrow and get a bunch of brassicas and maybe put some lettuce in, possibly. Yeah. But yeah, been pretty happy with just being back home and being on normal schedule.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about it really tonight. I definitely appreciate everybody coming into the chat, and I will be in October. I will be teaching a class. It will be a permaculture fruit tree guild class at the Kentucky Sustainable Living Festival in Bowling Green. It'll be on October 27th. And the festival itself is on 28th, 29th, but the Friday before is a paid class that I'll be teaching. So if anybody's interested in coming to hang out with me for that, go on their website and sign up for that class. And I look forward to being able to see somebody or seeing any of you at that venue. It should be a good venue, and a lot of what you're going to get from these types of festivals is just the connection that you can make with people, seeing them in person and having that sort of interaction. So definitely something I would encourage folks to do if you're at all considering it. Yeah, definitely. I'll see you there, Jason. Jason's putting it on, Kentucky Sustainable Living. And yeah, we look forward to being able to get down there.
Yeah, I get to hold down the fort.
Yeah. Let's see. I got my barn. Let's see. I finally got my barn renos done and moved all my turkeys. Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's never ending. All the stuff we got to do around here. And you don't realize, until you're knee deep into it all day long, and you're like, man, I got a lot of stuff still to do. And so for those folks who have to work full time and then try to come home and homestead, I definitely empathize with that. But I'm very fortunate to have the time that I have to spend doing what I do and all of those sorts of things. But it's one of the reasons why I'm going to go up and buy from a nursery. I'm going to buy my starts because I think it's important to know how to start them and have the stuff to start them, the heat mats and all of the humidity domes and all your trays and all your seeds and all those sort of things. But I don't start my stuff every year. It's cheaper for me and easier for me to go up and, purchase that stuff because I can spend my time more wisely elsewhere instead of nursing a bunch of, maybe starts or what have you. But it's something that I do every year is I'll start some stuff, but not all my stuff that I start from seed. So, tomorrow I'm going to be going up and grabbing that stuff. Let's see here. I think I missed a question. The more you depend on government, etc., the bigger you make it until you've created a monster that you can't control. Yeah, I think that's where we're headed, man. It's like, it's so weird to me. It's like it used to be kind of like the people were more in charge and more in control, but it's like the people just need to focus on what the people need to focus on because we can't look to them to have our interests in mind. So I think it's one of those things that once you recognize that, we can take steps for ourselves to make our own lives better and manage the things we can control, because we certainly can't control the monster that has been created in government, Yeah. Right on. Yeah, I'd love to see you there, Skanes girl. If you're planning on going down to Kentucky, that'd be sweet. That would be awesome to hang out with you. But hey, anyhow, guys, we're going to probably wrap it up there. And I just, again, wanted to thank everybody who's, been a part of chiming in with us and hanging out with us here in these chats and, being on the channel and watching the videos and all of the things that you guys do for us, as creators. Just being a part of what we're doing is like, thanks enough, quite honestly, to watch the videos, to comment, to hang out with us. And that's what it's all about. So you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah.
If anybody wants to give me soap making tips.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks again. And we are going to end it tonight.
Yes. Good night, all.
Take care.